Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a fascinating show today. You watch the show all the time. We bring leaders in their particular space on the show. We love it. And I had a pre-interview call with Dr. Michael Kwast. And he has such a unique look at the body. He has such a unique look at what happens when you grow older. I mean, he has so many great stories about the way he got into helping other people. It all started with his own struggles with giant migraines that he used to have. And he figured out that he needed to do something to help other people. So he built this amazing practice in the chiropractic field. But I call him the teacher's teacher. I mean, not only does he help so many people in his practice, but people all around the world come to him who are also chiropractors, and they say, hey, Michael, we want some of your secret sauce. So we've got Michael for a full 30 minutes today. Michael, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great to have you on the show. We had a great pre-call. You've got so many stories. I mean, the way in which you started thinking about stiffness and rigor mortis and everything else. We spoke about it. But before we get started, let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Tell us about the i-Chiro clinics, and then we're going to get right into it.
Yeah, no problem. Well, basically, just doing this for a long time, you start to see things. And when we see, thousands and thousands of patients over time, you can't help but start putting things together, things that nobody thinks about. And what we found was obviously every person as we get older is getting stiffer. There's no escaping that, right? And people try to minimize their stiffness. They think it's no big deal. But then when you see them when they get older, they're really kind of mad about the stiffness because they can't do anything. And it's kind of a crying shame, when you look at that. We look at it all the time because we're trying to get patients' quality of life better. And people think that you're saying that you're going to make them live longer. And that's not what we're saying, but we're saying, don't you want to have quality while you are alive, right? So we started to look at that and just started to see scenarios. For example, one scenario, one of my buddies, he's a financial planner, and he and I were sitting around, just talking, and he was kind of down. And I'm like, why are you all down? And he goes, well, I had a meeting with, a retirement party meeting with my client. And I'm like, shouldn't you be excited about that, right? That should be a good thing. And he goes, well, it should be, but it's just kind of sad. I go, what the heck? What do you mean? Did you do a bad job investing for them, or what the heck? He goes, no, they're multimillionaires. We did great. He goes, the sad part is 25 years ago, we sat down and they put a dream board together of everything that they were going to do when they retired. And what we needed the money for was him golfing every day, traveling the world, taking the kids to Disneyland and walking around, playing pickleball, doing all these things, right? It wasn't called sitting around in a rocking chair doing nothing. Retirement was about doing. And he said, the sad part is they're multimillionaires. However, they can't even sit in an airplane. They can't even walk, a golf course or even play a couple holes. They just can't do anything because they didn't take care of their mobility, because they didn't understand the consequences of the choices they were making. And now here they are, retired, and all they can do is sit in a rocking chair and afford to pay any bill that they want, but their quality of life is crap. And that's really just got me thinking, because that tied everything together. That story was the story I was seeing over and over and over again. And people were very disgruntled, but it was bizarre because in the beginning, they minimize their stiffness and tell you how it's not a big deal and they don't need any help. But then it gets to the point where they're like, holy crap, this is the biggest disaster. I'll give you my house if you can get me better. And what a gap, right? How do we bridge the knowledge gap so that you can get people to be better functionally sooner? Because when you wait till you're super old, the odds of getting super good results are much smaller. Earlier is better.
Wow. There's an old saying, you don't want to be the wealthiest guy or gal in the graveyard. And, I think, Michael, when I think about your story, I mean, here we are, they did a dream board. It was 20 years ago. They accomplished their financial goals. They could do anything they want now, but here they are older and they're stiff. They can't move. They can't get out. They can't enjoy the grandkids. They can't go on a trip. And this really started this, what I call revolution that you started, Dr. Kwast, with regard to this stiffness, I guess, the king of stiffness, maybe I call you. So let's talk about that. So what is it about getting older and being stiff that you and your team are able to sort of, I guess, reverse directions on for people who come to your practice?
Yeah. So what we found was that instead of just waiting for somebody's symptoms, which is what most people do, they wait until they're hurting or having some kind of big problem, right? They wait for that, but we know from medicine and dentistry that that's a dumb move. You wait until your teeth hurt really bad, and then you go crawling into the dentist. There's nothing but a drill going or even pulling teeth. I mean, you wait to go to the doctor for having horrible symptoms, and you've got a mess on your hands. That's why people get, mammograms, pap smears, breast exam, colonoscopy. Guys get prostate exams, your blood pressure tested. No, you don't go into any of those clinics and then they go, we're going to do that stuff. And then you go, oh, wait, I'm feeling fine. And then the doctor goes, oh, silly me. Let's wait till you have symptoms. Everybody knows that's just the dumbest move. However, in the physical world, the realm of chiropractic, massage therapy, physical therapy, exercise therapy, that physical realm, no one's got that yet. Everybody still waits till they have all these horrible symptoms and then they go gimping in. And then typically, it's a mess and it's hard and it's challenging. It's going to be expensive and take a long time. And, that's the things nobody wants to hear. So what we found was that by using testing, even simple testing like ranges of motion, how far you can turn your neck, how far you can bend your knee, your hip, and actually measuring that, documenting it, finding where those restrictions are early. And then the purpose of the visit and the treatments and what we're doing is to restore that range of motion, that mobility. Then all of a sudden you can walk with a person. So if we took you, say, Andy, you came in, we took you, we measured all your ranges of motion, everything that was tight and stiff, even that you didn't know about, even that didn't hurt, we were on it. And we put a treatment plan together. We got on it. We were working it. We got you doing stuff at home. We're doing everything we can. We're combining all these different therapies that we have, from chiropractic to physiotherapy type things to exercise, stretching, all of that stuff, massage therapy. We're putting everything we know that works together because we don't care. It's not about just because I'm a chiropractor, that doesn't mean that's what we do. We are a results practor. We get results doing whatever it takes to get that person's mobility better using any tool that we're allowed to use, right? So we're going to get your mobility better, and then we're going to watch it. And as we walk with you, here you are as you're getting older, but we're watching and testing periodically. Every time something tightens up, even though you're not in the hospital and you're not crying about it like a baby because it hurts so bad, you don't even know. We're finding it, nipping it in the bud, and then play that scenario out until you're 85, 90 years old. And tell me, the difference is if you just didn't do any of that stuff and you just took Tylenol all those years. Take a look at those two scenarios, and which one do you want to be?
I love it. We know. And for the entrepreneurs watching the show, And, Dr. Kwast, when we spoke, when we look at your practice, this whole concept of a holistic approach to taking care of stiffness, so that when you build your dream board as you get older, you can go play with the grandkids and go on a trip and go on a cruise and hike the Himalayas if you want to. You have a lot of super high-tech things going on at your office as well that I think was very interesting. Let's talk about some of those machines that you have that really help out, and how do they help your clients?
Yeah, so, in the public realm, there's not a lot of understanding on how things work, in the, for example, the chiropractic world. Most people's perception of what they think that is just isn't right. It starts off with people thinking that your back pops out of joint, like the vertebrae pop out of joint, and then you pop it back in. And that's what everyone thinks. And sadly, that's just not even how it works. If your back did pop out of joint, that's called a facet dislocation. You'd be in the ER, probably paralyzed and having big problems, right? So that can happen if you get like hit by a car or something dramatic. But people aren't walking into chiropractors with that. We're actually working on the deep muscle. The deep muscle is what is actually being worked on, and we're stretching that. Now, number one reason people don't want to go to a chiropractor is because they're scared of being twisted and turned. And that was a study that was done by Palmer College. They did a survey out to the public. And here's the thing. We have technology now. So people don't understand this either. Like, you know how technology grows in every profession and every field. I mean, geez, Pete, I can't even keep up with my phone. My phone is like insane. All the things that I have, you know, you look at this thing, it's like, oh my word, it's sheesh. Well, guess what? Our field has technology too. So we actually have computers now. The ones that we use are called the Pro Adjusters, and they actually have sensors in them. You can scan somebody's spine. It's going to measure the motion of each vertebrae. The motion of that. Why the motion? Because that's what matters. It's the motion. The muscles tighten around those areas and make them not move. So that's what we're trying to locate. Because if you have stiffness, your odds of getting injury are very high. And you don't want injury, because injuries then lead to more problems. Injuries then lead to more arthritis and degeneration. And the whole thing spirals down, all starting with stiffness. And usually people don't even know they have it. That's where it starts. That's like the cause from just doing stuff in life. So these computers, they'll actually find where that stiffness is. You scan a person's spine, find the stiffness. It'll then treat those muscles. So this is where a lot of stuff is rolled down the pipe. You know, in the last decade of understanding how this stuff works, we're actually working on mechanoreceptors, which are telling your brain what's happening. And then your brain tells those muscles what to do through all these nerves and mechanoreceptors. So it gets a little deep, but what I found is, you know, the better a patient understands how this stuff works, they always get better results. And it's not super complex. We just have to like explain it, and the person has to be interested long enough to pay attention and pick it up, because it's life-changing to have your mobility. Once your mobility is gone, everybody's like, oh, it's a priority. But 5 minutes before they lost it, they were fine and didn't need any help. It's a really sad state that a lot of people go through that. It's heartbreaking. And it's just because they just don't understand. And so we're trying to get the word out, trying to like help people understand how this stuff works so that they can have the best quality of life possible and then be the most impactful for whatever purpose you're here for. I mean, I believe every person has a purpose on earth, that God put you here for a reason, and there's something here that you need to get done. And if you feel like crap and can't move, I don't think you're as good as if you feel great and can move well. So my purpose is to help people get to that level so that they can like do what it is that they're here to do. And we will use whatever we got to use. You know, we work with technology, which that stuff takes so much off the table. You know, my team, the system we've created with the testing, the retesting, using the technology. We have other technologies that we use too that will help these muscles and tissues and mobility work better, function at a higher level, make the person stronger, less likely to get injured, actually even perform better when you can move and do stuff. So athletes can do more. There's so much. It's like we need hours to go through all this, but it's cool because you can really make a difference for people, and with things they don't even think about sometimes, even like sports. Like I high jumped at Michigan State University, a Big Ten school. The difference between a walk-on and a full ride scholarship was 4 inches. If you were here, you were a full ride. Royal treatment. If you were here, you were walk on and walking everywhere and no royal treatment, right? Over 4 inches. What if there was something that could have just gave you a little edge? And that's the kind of stuff that we look at. And usually that's a mobility issue. You know, so many people have mobility issues that they don't even know they have. And we call them compensation patterns, where, you know, they won't move or bend or do something in the right way because of an injury or something that's happened to them that they just shook off, rubbed dirt on it, walked away, and they're fine. They're still alive, but they're not optimal. And so it's about trying to find this optimal function or peak performance what we call it, this peak performance, is really what we're trying to go through in this thing called life.
Wow. I love it because it gives you meaning. It gives your staff meaning that when people come in and you help them out, like you said, people are here for a purpose. And it's quite possible that you helping those clients become less stiff and more mobile and more energized and more physically fit and healthy helps them and promotes the idea that maybe they get to do what they were put on this earth for. I mean, it's really incredible. Now, I called you the king of stiffness. That's the moniker that I gave you. But I did that because of a reason, because you have other chiropractors and other health professionals reaching out to you all the time, Michael. They say, hey, Michael, we hear what you're doing over there. You've connected this whole stiffness idea with the machines and this profession in a way that's never been sort of connected before. So let's talk about that part of your practice where the other doctors are reaching out to you and you're helping them understand what you do so they can do it with their practice as well.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the hard things in our profession is usually you got one guy in an office. He works there until he retires, sells his office to some young kid who comes in, destroys the thing by changing everything, and then has to rebuild it. And you just don't see any like real traction with this concept of trying to change your mobility and your function. And everyone wants to reinvent the wheel. So everybody tries to redo everything. And what you don't see a lot of is guys like me who's already figured everything out the hard way. 25 years in doing this, we figured some stuff out. What if I was a kid coming out of school right now or somebody in practice and we just like handed you all this on a silver platter? What would that do to your ability to help more people faster, more efficiently, more effectively? Oh my word, it would take off. So we're trying to help these other professionals, number one, understand how this stuff works. Number two, be able to take the system that I've created and just plug that right into their practice from the beginning and then hit the ground running. Or if they've been in practice for a while, just plug it in and be able to hit the ground running. We have an award-winning system. I actually won the Better Business Bureau of West Michigan's Trust Award for ethics with this system. As soon as I laid it out, I had somebody come into our office and she's like, you got to take this to the Better Business Bureau. I go, what the heck are you talking about? And she goes, they have an award. This is like nothing I've seen. And so what we did is we went there and I presented to their team. They had a whole team of people that were critiquing and judging. And when I laid out, here you are, patient, you come in, we evaluate you, we find out what's going on, where all your stiff and tight areas are, which by the way, are the cause of headaches, back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, knee pain. All the injuries are typically caused by the stiffness. That's why we talk about stiffness. People are like, I thought chiropractic was for back pain. Right. The cause of it is typically stiffness. It wasn't one injury. Usually it's straw on the camel's back idea. Injuries build up over time and then something gives. So anyway, we're sitting in front of this board and I laid it out for them. Come in, we're going to evaluate you, find all these stiff and tight areas, and here's why it matters. Then we're going to do a couple treatments with you. We're going to teach you how this stuff works. I got some videos that'll explain everything, brochures. We're going to talk. We're going to get you understanding this stuff so that you know what's happening, because we're trying to educate, inform, and really empower people to be able to be in charge of what's going on in their life. People think it's just luck and chance that they wake up one day and can do stuff. Oh, it's luck and chance. No, it's not. It's called what you do. What did you do that set the odds table for you? So we want to set the odds table high for good function, good mobility. So once we do those couple visits, we see how a person reacts. So Andy, if we worked on you a couple times and you were like, oh my gosh, this is great. When we then on our fourth visit estimate what we think that's going to take, we can be more accurate. If you said, oh my gosh, I'm really sore, that's a different estimate. So then we can estimate for patients how long it's going to take, what they're going to need to do, what their insurance covers, what it doesn't, what their out-of-pocket is, how they can fit this into their budget so they can get this care that they need and still be able to afford to live, right? We lay all that out as a process. Now, they had never seen anything like that in healthcare. they were all like, oh my word, normally I go to the doctor and they do stuff and I get bills in the mail and I have no idea what anything costs. I don't know anything why I'm doing what. We're just doing what we're told. And that's not very empowering. So we want to empower people to be able to choose these things and then see what's happening, because ultimately they are in control of their life. And, you're not just a leaf in the wind getting blown around. Oh, wow, I ended up here. It's actually the things you do, right? So we're trying to teach people that. And once they can have that information, then they can make some informed choices about what it is they want to do. And then we've empowered them. So Better Business Bureau of West Michigan, when they saw that, they were like, oh my gosh, this is great. And we actually won that. And so far, I'm the only chiropractic office that's ever won that in our area. So we're super proud of that. And what we do is we take this award-winning process, and I call it the chiropractic evolution revolution, because chiropractic, we're evolving, right? We're evolving. We're using technology now. We're using testing. It's changed a lot. And it's really a revolution in the healthcare model, because it's looking at things differently rather than a break fix, like you broke something, now we fix it. It's let's keep things from getting broke, right? More of a let's keep things working well. Let's not pretend that there's any fix. There is no fix for life. It's called everyone dies, right? No one makes it out alive. It's how do you get to the end with good quality of life? That's what we're trying to get to. And so that's what we're trying to help other chiros and other healthcare providers with. We can bring the system, set it right in place. They just push go, and then they can actually start moving along this process of helping more people sooner, not having to hit every hard knocks, figuring out themselves. I just had a rodeo guy. He just passed away not long ago, but he was a patient for a long time. He's in his late 80s and a rodeo guy, back, getting bucked off horses, all this stuff. And he's still walking around doing stuff up into his late 80s. And he had been, using the technology and the things that we talk about to keep him mobile. And I was kind of complaining to him one day. I'm like, the patients, they just don't understand. I try to tell them this stuff and teach them, and, some people just don't understand it. And he looked at me and he goes, well, Dr. Mike, let me tell you something. Some people got to pee on the electric fence themselves. I'm like, yeah, that's true, man. I get it. But we're trying to help people not have to fall in the hole and figure it out. If we can prevent that, that saves a lot of cost, a lot of misery, and helps people just be able to have that better quality of life.
I love it. I love it. So we have people watching the show. I mean, I'm talking to you, I'm sitting up straighter, and I'm, thinking to myself, what am I going to do right now in this interview just to get more flexible? But for the entrepreneurs watching the show, maybe they're putting in these super long days. Are there some things they can do during the day just to help? I mean, it's not going to be the full revolution that you've started, but what are some of the things entrepreneurs can do to keep themselves a little more flexible in the daytime?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, everybody wants the stretching and the exercising. What can I do? And what we see the patterns with that are people do the things that are easy for them. So they tend to skip the exercise that they hate. They skip the stretch that they hate, right? Which is probably the one that they need most. The fat guy hates going to the gym and doing sit-ups too. But it's because that's what he needs the most of. And we actually see it when patients come in. It's the things that they really don't like they'll say, oh, I really don't like the vibration plate, for example, one of the technologies we use to strengthen tissue. I'll be like, yep, that means you need it more. So the key thing with this is there's not just a battery of things that you can do that's just really not patient specific. So the specific thing is figuring out where your immobilities are with the testing. So, for example, if you can't turn your head all the way, which you're supposed to be able to turn at 90 degrees, if you can't do that, then those would be the stretches you do. So the testing tells where the actual mobility issues are with that person. Now, the problem is, right, if you don't come in, then how do you know where those are? Well, a lot of the basic range of motion testing, any therapist can walk you through, and then that way you'll know where those are. You just have to make sure they're being measured, because right now, very few places are measuring people's mobility unless they're already injured, right? So the idea is to measure your mobility first. I'll give you an example. We had a lady come in and she had hurt her neck and she can't move her neck. And she's like, I thought she was like in a car accident or something. It's so bad. And I go, well, what did you do? And she goes, well, I was down at the butterfly museum. We have a butterfly museum where they release all these butterflies. They fly around. You go in there and you look at them. It's pretty cool. She's like, I was at the butterfly museum. A butterfly flew by and I looked at it and hurt my neck. So she's like blaming the butterfly, which obviously that's not what did it, right? Everybody wants to think that it's like an injury, but a lot of this stuff is because you are stiff and don't know. So what it was is she couldn't turn her head all the way. She didn't know it because she felt fine. So then she goes to turn and she overstretches everything and hurts herself. So she comes in. Now we can work on her and make her feel better. However, if we don't, well, let me ask you, what do you think happens if we don't fix the inability to turn? What's going to happen the next time another butterfly flies by?
Problems.
Yeah, exact same thing's going to happen again. And this is where you'll see people say, you know, once I went to a chiropractor, you have to keep going forever. Right, because you never fixed the range of motion restriction. You just felt better and then stopped. And of course the problem's going to come back. You didn't fix the range of motion. And a lot of people will go, but I didn't even know I had one. And it's like, right, because nobody probably even measured it. So if we don't measure where these mobility issues are and then know what it is, if you just go on how somebody feels, you miss the entire boat. And that's why no one in healthcare uses that anymore, because that does not work as effectively as actually using testing to measure what's going on with a person. That works way better. And so that's where we see a lot of these like injuries happen. It's their mobility things. You know, the guy this is what we see in the clinic. I bent over to tie my shoe and blew my back out. I rolled over in bed. I coughed. I sneezed. I had a lady that was brushing her hair and hurt her shoulder. Like, these are not injuries. Injuries are you fell off the roof, you got hit by a car. Those are injuries, right? But people can't like think about it that way. It's minute little things over time stacking up like straw on the camel's back. Just like a camel, you know, if you put straw on his back, so does that hurt? Nope. Does that hurt? Nope, 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 nope. Eventually you'd put a piece and down he'd go and he'd be blaming the last straw. It's the cumulative load, right? So how do you measure cumulative load? You measure that with the mobility testing. You'll start to lose your mobility before you have the little injury from the thing that you did. It's just crazy. I mean, we just had a guy come in last week. I go, what'd you do? I rolled over in bed and hurt my back. No, that was the last straw. But he really believes that's what did it, because we're so like tied into this injury stuff. And that's not what we're seeing out in the field. In the field, we're seeing people are having these nothings that are hurting them, and they can't understand how that's even happening, because they're missing this concept of this stiffness, which leads to injuries, which leads to degeneration and arthritis, as that tight muscle squeezes those joints together and then wears all that cartilage out. That's how that works. People think the arthritis stuff is just like luck, chance, and age. In fact, we just had a guy come in. This happens literally once a month. He came in and he goes, yeah, my hip's worn out. Can you take a look at it? They want to do surgery. I don't want to do surgery. I'm like, well, yeah, I'll look at it. We look at it and I go, yeah, it's bad, man. I go, why did the doctor tell you it was worn out? And he goes, well, he said I'm old. And I go, oh, well, let me look in the chart. I look in the chart. I go, yeah, you are old. Yep, I agree. But let me ask you another question. How's your other hip doing? He goes, well, there's nothing wrong with that one. And I go, well, how the heck old's that hip? Why would one hip wear out from being old and the other one's totally fine? Makes no sense, right? If it was age, they'd be worn out the same. Same with every joint in your body, would all be worn out the same. You never see that. It's always certain areas are worn out. Why are they worn out? Because they have bad motion. Bad motion is caused by muscle compression or stiffness, and then that squeezes the joint together, wears all the cartilage out. That's what's actually doing these degenerative problems. The problem is people want to just wait until it's so bad that they need surgery. And why not just handle it on the front end? As soon as it's stiff, we get it to be better. And then the odds of you needing that are much less.
I love it. I mean, I never thought I'd learn so much about mobility. I mean, it's fantastic. It makes all the sense in the world. It's fascinating the way you describe it, the way you explain it. I know you're a teacher at heart. I mean, 25 years in the business, you've seen it all. But before I let you go, and I know you've only cut out a certain amount of time, I already know I'm bringing you back on the show because this is fascinating, because I love hearing about it. I'm stiff, so I need to start doing something. Come get all the testing and get on the special program. Let's talk about it, though, for entrepreneurs watching the show. Maybe they're having a tough time in business. I want to turn this to entrepreneurship. Based on your experience as an entrepreneur, what can they do to keep on pushing when times get tough?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to hang in there. The really secret that I think to any business, any entrepreneur type thing, is really just fully embracing the purpose that you have for that. You know, it drives you. You know, when I wake up in the morning, I don't always feel like going to work. I don't always feel like coming in and doing this interview. I don't always feel like doing these things, right? And in today's culture, everybody's really driven by how they feel about things. And, you know, too bad, right? You know, that's what I think in my head. You know, when I was a little kid, I had horrible migraines. Nobody could help me. I was on every drug, shot, and pill you could imagine. They even diagnosed me with MS, wanted to do really radical experimental treatments. And our dentist talked my mom into taking me to a chiropractor, because she was like, yeah, I don't know about that. Those guys are weird, right? And we actually went. 6 months later, you know, I didn't have headaches anymore. And it was the greatest thing ever. And I look at my life and I go, what would have happened if I had not done that? Where would I be today? Who knows? But I can tell you it wouldn't be anywhere good taking all these medications and doing things, because healthy people don't take drugs, right? You know, like I talk about that in my books. Healthy people don't take drugs, you know, they just don't. And when I look at that and I think about, you know, I don't feel like coming into work today. The other piece of me says, there's somebody out there suffering with a problem right now, and you're going to go to work, because it's not about you. It's about those people that need you. They need your information and they need it. And who cares how you feel? Get out of bed, go do what you got to do. Get out of the chair, go and help these people, because I wish somebody had done that sooner for me. And what if somebody hadn't done it sooner? You know, so many times, you know, it's frustrating. When I was a kid, as I got older, I went back to my family doctor and I go, look, why didn't you just tell me to go to the chiropractor the first time I had a headache, instead of giving me all these drugs that cause diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, you know, hair loss, all these things, right? Why didn't you just tell me? He goes, I don't know anything about that stuff. I go, what are you talking about? You're a doctor. You're supposed to know everything. He goes, no, you know, he goes, nobody knows everything. That's why we have specialists for every part of your body. Like there's every specialist you can imagine, because nobody knows everything. And he goes, and by the way, when you put all the specialists in a room, all they do is fight and argue. It's like, this isn't like people perceive it to be all known. And he goes, hey, but I'm glad you found that chiropractic stuff. That's working great for you. You need to keep doing that. And I walked out of there. I'm like, what the heck, man? Like, I thought the doctor knew everything. Now I'm finding out he doesn't. And it's still today, you know, I've taken that ProAdjuster technology where we go out with a computerized machine. I've taken that to over 100 medical clinics just in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Not one doctor even knew about it. Yet they're telling people whether they should come in or not. And they certainly don't know anything about the testing and retesting. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen. But I believe it all drives from purpose. And when you're purposeful and you're get up there and you go, you know what, there's somebody that's going to be setting my path today that I have the opportunity to change their life for the better. That drives you like nothing else. Even if I don't feel good, I'm dragging out of bed because somebody needs what we got. And I think every entrepreneur out there, somebody needs what you got. You might not know who it is. You might not understand it, but it's bigger than you. And you need to have that purpose to keep driving, to keep helping. And that's why we want to help as many doctors and chiropractors, people. We want to help these guys become effective and efficient, give them the system so that then they can then traction and start helping more and more and more people. That means less people being addicted to pain pills, to drugs, to side effects of that, needing surgeries. Like if we can get people's quality of life better so they perform better, feel better, function better, that, like, who's against that? That's all win, win, win. And that's what it's all about.
I love it. Wow. The master of mobility. That's my new name for Dr. Kwast. I mean, Michael, what a great interview. The evolution revolution, the founder of i-Chiro clinics. I mean, you're doing such a great job. We're going to put the links to the book up as well. I want to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today. This has been so much fun and so informative. It's just been a blast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.